Let's get this party started!
He's shining a light in the dark corners of our media.
You are fake news.
Our government.
Handling of classified documents.
And our culture.
Don't trust anyone.
It's common sense amid its chaos.
Let's go.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome.
Here's your host, Ike Wingate.
Welcome to the show. It is Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025, and I am glad you are with us as we have just too much to talk about. We had to come on a little bit later. Yes, things happen, and here we are together on Tuesday, and the conversation regarding the Charlie Kirk assassination has now turned to more and more conspiracy. So we're going to explore some of those. Is there some credibility to those, or is it just the thing that happens when an event like this occurs? We will explore that. Plus, the largest potential event in our history where the gospel was on display over the weekend at the Charlie Kirk Memorial. What an event. What an event. And it was several hours long. I watched every bit of it. And you came away with a different sense after a memorial than you typically would. Literally celebrating Charlie Kirk's life. There was a lot of worship music. There were a lot of speakers. My. And, of course, several people proclaiming the gospel that I wouldn't necessarily expect to do it. I think through the death of Charlie Kirk, it has emboldened people to be more vocal about their faith, which is a pretty incredible result of such a heinous, horrible murder. But people are speaking out. You got Marco Rubio, you got J.D. Vance, and the like. People sharing the gospel on the world stage. 100 million streams. And then, of course, clip after clip after clip. Some people estimating 1 billion people potentially reached with this message. And it has sparked the word revival from many. So we're going to play a couple clips from that, but we will also get into the assassination. It feels really almost disrespectful to do it, to get into conspiracies at this point, but it happens. You know, we went every which way on the President Trump assassination attempt, trying to make sure there wasn't something we were overlooking. Of course, we didn't really get any answers. We still don't have them on that event. But obviously, with the Charlie Kirk situation, we have a lot more answers. We have a different, administration in power that's more transparent about these things. And obviously, there are personal friendships involved as well. And so we just know a lot more about this. There weren't multiple shots. And so I think there's a lot less latitude for entertaining conspiracy theories on this. That's just me. I could be biased because I happen to like Charlie Kirk a lot and respected him. And so it as somebody, who relates to him and what I do, it almost feels disrespectful, but out of the pursuit of the truth, we've got to at least ask the questions. And so we're going to do that as well. Now, let me back up. Jimmy Kimmel is back on air tonight. The left told us this was a silencing of his free speech, which, by the way, the left loves to shut down people they don't like. So spare me the hypocrisy. But the entire time, yours truly, even after people like Ted Cruz came out and said, this sets a dangerous precedent. Of course it would set a dangerous precedent if the president shut down Jimmy Kimmel. No question. But that's not what happened. And I've been saying from the beginning, this was a business decision, likely because Jimmy Kimmel had low ratings, no profits, and this just gave them the opportunity to shut him down after a lot of people were offended by what he said. ABC has shut down people for a lot less, mind you. But this was a business decision. They've put Jimmy Kimmel back on. I guess he's learned his lesson in a few days. Yeah, right. We'll see what he does tonight. But a lot of markets won't have him on their affiliate, their ABC affiliate. So we'll talk about that. But there was a story, I believe it was in the Rolling Stone or Hollywood Reporter, something like that, that outlined actually what happened with Jimmy Kimmel being taken off the air, the timeline and everything. Again, I told you. I tell you what, lately I've just been posting a lot of stuff on my personal Facebook, and clearly I have a lot of friends that are far left. See, I'm diversified. Don't believe what they say about me. And so I've just been having ridiculous debate after ridiculous debate. And, you see when someone is spouting exactly what they're saying on mainstream and left-wing media, there's no critical thinking going on. It's just being spoon-fed the talking points. And that is no doubt evident in what we've seen. We'll also talk about Trump coming out against vaccines, talking about taking the MMR vaccine separately. They don't, kids don't need to take them all at once. This was precisely what Jim, what the heck is his name? All righty then. You know that guy. Whatever the heck that dude's name is. Yeah. Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura. You know what I'm talking about. The name will come to me at some point, but I have totally blanked. But he went on the Larry King live show like 15 years ago, 20. It was a long time ago. Everybody thought he was crazy. And he was on there with his, were they married at the time? Jim Carrey. Thank you, Cairo Doc over on Instagram. Jim Carrey. Not Jimmy Kimmel. Jim Carrey and the gal he was married to, who was on the MTV network. Another name I forgot. Jim Carrey married to Jenny McCarthy. That's it. So you remember they went on, you may not have seen this, years ago, he went on Larry King Live and started saying the exact things that President Trump was saying yesterday. Don't take them all together. There's no reason to pump babies with all this. And then, the link to Tylenol and autism. Now, I will say this, and I wish some of my liberal people were watching right now, because they say I am just spoon feeding you. I'm carrying Trump's water, and I just, can't think for myself. I can be critical of Trump. I didn't really like the way he was kind of riffing during this vaccine announcement. He was just, I would just say, tighten it up a little bit. Let the other people sort of speak on, what they should or shouldn't take as far as Tylenol and things like that. I get where he's coming from. He's very informed on it. He knows, what he's talking about, but it went on for a while. And I would say in retrospect, it's probably better to keep it tight and then hand it off to these people to talk specifically about it. So then when the left starts trying to find points to disagree with you on, where you're sort of rambling on, talking about, if you're pregnant, you might not be able to take it. You might, if you just can't do it, you may take a Tylenol, but maybe you can get through it. You can power through it. I'm like, oh boy. It just gives the left something to shoot at and make a distraction. That's all. I'm just, it's not like he said anything like horrible or bad. It was just, you're riffing loosely enough about health care that this is what these people are going to latch onto, and it's a distraction from the main issue. So it's a little bit of a gift to the distraction machine of the left-wing liberal media. And so, again, it's just, you can say that, just tighten it up. That's all. Tighten it up. That's all. Get it tight. But it's hilarious because they're trying to blame Trump for all this stuff, but Trump knows what he's talking about. These are studies. There's studies that back all of this up. And again, if it was anybody else saying it, it wouldn't be a big deal. There'd be no problem with it or whatever. But we're going to show you the hypocrisy, what the left is doing, because Trump said it. I mean, if Trump said, nobody should ever eat poison, I guarantee you there were people on TikTok the very next day on the left eating poison just to spite the man. This is how irrational they are. So we're going to show you some of that, as well as Trump speaking to the UN. Let me tell you, Trump doesn't give 2 cents about getting along with the UN when it comes to their ridiculous climate policies and other things. So we're going to play you some clips from that. You can help us out in the algorithm. Give us a thumbs up depending on the platform you're watching on. Heart the post, repost us, please repost, and that way you can get it out in the internets, in the interwebs and whatnot. All right. Keep your comments coming in the chat. We want to hear from you on what we are talking about today. We love to get your insight on exactly what's happening in our country as we go back to what we talked about at the top, the revival that has begun. And it was evident on Sunday. You have a full stadium there.
One more time. So I throw up my head, praise you again. All that
Did you ever think you were going to witness something like this in our lifetime? I mean, you got 100,000 plus, and at least that many that were turned away outside, according to reports. And then you have this on most major news networks. You have it streamed all over the world. And this doesn't happen by accident. And we talked about it. We talked about it the day we found out together right here on this show that Charlie Kirk had been killed. The prayer was, we were praying that God would save his life, but if he didn't, that we trusted he would use it for good in a way that would suit his purposes, that was pleasing to his purpose, and that we would, help us to trust that truth. And I mean, you look at what has happened in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death, and it's just, I would call it miraculous. If you would have told me 2 weeks ago that this is where we were going to be today, I would have told you you were absolutely crazy. It is incredible what has happened. I mean, you even had Elon Musk and Donald Trump coming together. Even in Charlie Kirk's death, he's bringing people together. Every seat in the arena was filled. The only places that were open were, the roped off portions. But again, as we talk about, as Erica Kirk has spelled out, you have no idea what you have just unleashed on the world here by taking out innocent blood in Charlie Kirk. No matter how much they try to malign this guy, have you noticed clip after clip after clip comes out that totally destroys these lies about this guy? And think about it. If you had that many hours of yourself, I know if there were, you guys know, if there were that many hours of me all over the internet, you were bound to find something. You just were. But with Charlie Kirk, it doesn't mean he said everything perfectly, and it doesn't mean that his views didn't evolve over time with more information and lived experiences. Nobody's perfect. The left wants you to believe they are, and that's the standard they try to hold the right to. But you can't find anything that they are accusing him of. Yeah, you take a snippet of 10 seconds, you can make anybody look like they're saying anything. But when you have it in the broader context, every time these lies are dispelled, it is incredible. And I'm thinking this was obviously a mortal man, a sinner, made mistakes, but I just find it hard to believe that any of us under this kind of microscope would survive the critique without some kind of scandal, some kind of, just moment of letting the guard down and saying something you shouldn't have said, but it's out there on the internet forever, and they just ridicule you with it and make that your legacy. They can't do it with Charlie Kirk, which is a real testament to the guy and how knowledgeable he was, how wise beyond his years, and how when you're speaking the truth, you don't have to run cover or anything like that. And of course, Erica Kirk stunned the world when she said, why is this going on? Why is this happening? You're really messing up my momentum here, technology. She stunned the world when she said this.
Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do. That man, that young man, I forgive him.
Standing ovation, people stunned, people moved emotionally. I mean, I don't know how you could watch this for the first time and not shed a tear. It was an incredible moment. Not for Erica Kirk per se, even though that took incredible courage, but for the love of Christ, his example, his true living word, and the Holy Spirit being alive and well. I mean, that to me is something that you can't forgive someone for something like that unless it is an act of God miraculously working through you. I believe that. And that was, just an incredible moment that took the temperature down of anybody that might be saying, even though they tried to paint this as a freaking Nazi rally, really a Nazi rally where the gospel is proclaimed, where people are singing, where the widow that lost her husband less than 2 weeks prior forgives the man. I mean, yeah, sounds like a real Nazi rally, but what she did there in that act of forgiveness rippled across the globe, and it will for decades to come. That will be written about in the history books, and it totally diminishes any arrows from the left when it comes to portraying this as anything but a loving environment, a Christ-like environment, one that is so contrary to this world, they just cannot comprehend it, which is what's incredible. Of course, you even had Marco Rubio on stage. And again, as I said, Charlie Kirk has inspired, I think, a lot of men to realize I need to be a better husband. I need to be a better follower. But it's inspired many humans, men and women alike, to be bold in their faith.
That we were all created, every single one of us, before the beginning of time, by the hands of the God of the universe, an all-powerful God, who loved us and created us for the purpose of living with him in eternity. But then sin entered the world and separated us from our Creator. And so God took on the form of a man and came down and lived among us. And he suffered like men. And he died like a man. But on the third day, he rose unlike any mortal man. And And to prove any doubters wrong, he ate with his disciples so they could see, and they touched his wounds. He didn't rise as a ghost or as a spirit, but as flesh. And then he rose to the heaven, but he promised he would return, and he will. And when he returns, because he took on that death, because he carried that cross, we were freed from the sin that separated us from him. And when he returns, there will be a new heaven and a new earth, and we will all be together, and we are going to have a great reunion there again with Charlie and all the people we love. Thank you, and God bless you.
Wow. Marco Rubio bringing the truth there of the gospel, of certainly the story of Christ. I don't think he said anything about repentance. That is a key factor in there. Maybe skipped over it on accident, but it's not an automatic. This is not something you inherit from your parents or your friends or anything like that. It is absolutely something that is personal. There has to be personal surrendering, personal repentance, and trust. Now, something I don't know if we talked about this last week. I've had so many conversations about the subject of Charlie Kirk with so many different people. I don't know what I've said where, so forgive me if I'm saying this again, but this South Park episode that aired about 10 days before Charlie Kirk was killed, something like that. Maybe it's 2 weeks. I watched it, and, you know, it's South Park, so it's full of crap. They actually made fun of Kristi Noem more than anything, but there were a couple funny parts, but they portrayed young Cartman as a Charlie Kirk figure that said a lot of things that were lies that the left now is saying that he believed, which he did not, that the Cartman character said them. So with the proximity to the assassination, I think there's something worth looking at here. Could this have influenced this assassin even further? I don't know, but it certainly put out lies about Charlie Kirk's views, and they sort of do it in a way that skirts responsibility. Charlie Kirk, though, had fun with it. Here he was talking about it a few weeks ago.
The South Park episode just dropped, and honestly, it is hilarious. I mean, part of it is kind of like whatever, typical humor, but it was hilarious. Just watch this little snippet of our Prove Me Wrongs, our viral cultural domination on prime time on Comedy Central. So important, so impactful that South Park is highlighting. Watch it.
I'm sick of people stealing my shtick. If anyone around here is going to be a master debater, it's me. So let's go. Who wants to debate the master debater? Let's go. You right there.
That's the stupidest haircut I've ever seen.
You are wrong. Leviticus 3:17 says it shall be a perpetual statute for your generations throughout all your dwellings. So you can shut up, baby. You just hate America and you love abortions.
Not only that, but Jeremiah 1:5, I made you in the womb. South Park gets this right. In fact, I think they've been watching a lot of Charlie Kirk videos. Watch.
Oh my God, what makes you think you have the right to say what I do with my body?
Let me ask you something. If a pregnant woman is killed and the baby dies too, why is the killer charged with a double homicide?
Well, but because people have different beliefs.
It's not about belief. It's about truth. Science confirms life begins at conception. So yes, Jeremiah 1:5 says, before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. But it's just morality that demands we protect the most vulnerable.
And we got our own award show as part of South Park. I was told going in, Charlie, if they say your name, that's a big win. Well, apparently there's the Charlie Kirk Awards.
Hello and welcome to the 3rd annual Charlie Kirk Award for Young Master Debaters.
More and more young people today are learning to fight for America through master debation. We're here to honor the recent efforts of a brave young man who has been furiously master debating for the past several days.
Now, there's going to be a lot said about this, but we need to have a good spirit about being made fun of. This is all a success. This is all a win. We as conservatives, we have thick skin, not thin skin. And you can make fun of us. It doesn't matter. And until next time, I hope all of you also become master debaters for truth.
Okay. It was a whole shtick. inside that episode. Look at the way Charlie Kirk handled this stuff. He did not give his enemies any fodder against him. He rolled with it. He laughed about it. He made that character his profile pic for a few days. I mean, that is how you handle it. Hard to do, but he was a good sport about it. There was plenty of terrible things in that episode, by the way, but they did get that one part right, which I was actually surprised about. But there were plenty of other things that they promoted in that episode that Charlie Kirk didn't believe, but oddly enough, are the same exact things that people are claiming in their critique of Charlie Kirk. So I think there's something there. After watching it, it was eerie, honestly. It was it really kind of irritated me, to be honest with you. Kind of got mad. All right, so let's paint a little bit more picture surrounding the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Erica Kirk did an interview with the New York Times spelling out a little bit more surrounding the time leading up to the assassination, what exactly happened afterward. And so this is the article here. And so essentially this, I'm trying to see how I can do this without just reading you this whole article. Let me just get you some highlights here. So the sheriff met her at the hospital. She was not there. Erica Kirk did not travel with him. She mentioned the night before he was all over the place. He was super excited about kicking off this new tour. He couldn't sleep, so I guess she went and slept in another room because he was just so wired. And she heard him in the kitchen late that night eating and was up stirring around. But he left early in the morning before she woke up. Apparently, maybe she woke up as he was leaving. They did not, they did not say goodbye to one another. So when she went to view his body, that's when she gave him the goodbye kiss that she wasn't able to give him that morning. So what happened was the charter plane took Charlie and crew to Utah. And then after this assassination happened, the jet was scrambled back to Arizona, picked Erica up, and flew her to Utah. The sheriff met her in the hospital, offered her the option of seeing the body, but the sheriff advised against it. The bullet, according to the sheriff, had ravaged her husband's neck. Erica Kirk said, with all due respect, I want to see what they did to my husband. Strong woman. She was braced for the worst, but what she saw surprised her. His eyes were semi-open, and he had this knowing Mona Lisa-like half smile, like he had died happy, like Jesus rescued him. The bullet came, he blinked, and he was in heaven. So really a touching story there in the New York Times. Now, Charlie Kirk was not wearing a bulletproof vest. On the evening before Charlie traveled to Utah, he and his wife met for dinner in the Phoenix area with a friend who was a faith leader. The purpose was to pray together over this new campus tour. But, as Erica Kirk stated, she and the friend were worried because of all of the numerous death threats over the past year and the increase in those threats, and the fact that Charlie Kirk had to travel with a security team anywhere he went. Over dinner, Erica Kirk implored her husband to start wearing a bulletproof vest. When he demurred, the friend suggested that Mr. Kirk at least speak behind bulletproof glass. Charlie Kirk said, "Not yet." Incredible, isn't it? It's like he knew, he had a sense that that he did not yet need to take those precautions. Maybe he thought, well, we haven't had a realistic threat happen or a close call, so let's not go there yet. Or, depending on the level of God's sovereignty you believe in, which I believe it's 100%, he had a sense that he should not do that because this was all part of the plan. He said he felt confident in his team that there'd be additional security at this event tomorrow. But Mrs. Kirk, like several of her husband's subordinates, had occasionally heard him imply that his life could be cut short by violence. She found herself wondering if a part of him had already surrendered to such a prospect. Chilling, huh? So, because Erica's mother was having medical treatment done in Phoenix that next day, Charlie told her, no, you need to stay home. You need to be with your mom. And then she would then travel with him on the next leg of the tour to Colorado State University. So Erica was sitting in her mother's hospital room at 11:23 on September 10th when she saw the number of her husband's longtime assistant, Michael McCoy, or Mikey McCoy, as they call him, come up on her phone. In retrospect, she said she knew the words, "He's been shot," before Mr. McCoy screamed them. Okay. This is a little bit of their backstory. Okay. Beyond the grief, she said sometimes she's able to see the Bible in such technicolor. To be so serene and saying, "Thy will be done, I surrender to it." Do I like it? No. That was the love of my life, my soulmate, my best friend, but God's plan is always greater than ours. Let's see here. In her view, a young but towering spiritual voice was silenced by a young lost soul. I'm a strong believer, she said, that this was God's plan, and it's so clear-cut it couldn't be more Charlie. I've had so many people ask, do you feel anger toward this man? Like, do you want to seek the death penalty? I'll be honest. I told our lawyer I want the government to decide this. I do not want that man's blood on my ledger, because when I get to heaven and Jesus is like, eye for an eye, is that how we do it? And that keeps me from being in heaven, from being with Charlie. Let's see here. So another thing is the cross that it was around Charlie's neck when he was shot got ripped off of his neck by paramedics. A little bit of blood on the cross. She now wears that necklace. So really just some incredible imagery, incredible story there, but it certainly clears up some of the questions that we have about the bulletproof vest. So we are not seeing a ricochet off a metal plate, a steel plate in a bulletproof vest on the front of Charlie Kirk. That's not what we're seeing. And you see these people talking about, there's a theory now that the lapel mic exploded. I mean, we heard the gunshot. We know that happened. So you got people going all kind of crazy ways. Oh, it was an exit wound. There's no way. We're going to talk about it here in a minute. FBI Director Kash Patel said, I'm committed to ensuring the investigation into Charlie Kirk's assassination is thorough and exhaustive, pursuing every lead to its conclusion. He says they're investigating theories and questions, including the location from where the shot was taken, the possibility of accomplices, the text message confession, and related conversations. There's certainly some allegations that maybe this was a cover-up to keep the trans boyfriend from being implicated. They're also examining Discord chats, the angle of the shot and bullet impact, how the weapon was transported, hand gestures observed as potential signals near Charlie at the time of the assassination, which I think this is ridiculous. You got the security team doing hand signals to one another. They point to the guy with the white hat, I believe, who is the Turek guy, who is adjusting his hat. I mean, people were moving around doing things, but that means something. Is it possible? Yes. But knowing what we know, it's so improbable. Anyway, they're still investigating it. Kash Patel's like, you know what? We're going to look at it. Obviously, he's in tune with what the conversations are saying on social media, is also investigating the visitors to the alleged shooter's residence in the hours and days leading up to September 10th. There's been reports that were a bunch of cars at this condo that these two lived together at. Allegedly, they didn't have license plates. Those are the allegations. Kash Patel knows about all of it, and they are looking into it. He also addresses something that, caught on this. There was a private jet that took off and then turned off its transponder. Maybe that's who shot him and got away. He actually addresses this and says the plane that allegedly turned off its transponder after departing from an airport near the site. We can share updates when answers are confirmed, but after interviews with the pilot, he's already talked to the pilot of the plane, and consultation with the FAA, we determined the transponder was not turned off. Incomplete flight data in rural areas caused the apparent gap. So very transparent, very forthcoming, not leaving any stone unturned. And so I think until we have reason to believe it's not true, then we have to believe what is said. I got to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Just like all of you, I had problems sleeping. I had tried every pillow out there and nothing worked. I'd flip-flop all night, use my arm for support, and fall asleep, or I'd wake up with a sore neck or maybe a headache. Well, quality sleep comes from keeping your neck straight at night. You have to fill in that space between your head and your bed. That's why I invented My Pillow. My Pillow's patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs, and it doesn't matter if you sleep on your back, stomach, side, or any combination of all three.
When I got My Pillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night, and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get Classic King My Pillows for only $19.98. Queen size just $18.98. Standard Classic My Pillows only $14.98. That's right, only $14.98. Plus, all orders $75 or more ship absolutely free.
Thanks for watching the Ike Wingate Show. If you would, we are trying to spread this mission, and you could do something to help us out right now. Whatever platform you're watching on, hit the thumbs up, especially on Rumble. That helps us in the algorithm. While you're there on Rumble, hit the follow button as well. And down in the chat, when we're live, there's a little button that says subscribe. If you're watching in your browser, you'll be able to see that. Hit the button, and for $5 a month, you become an official Ike Nation subscriber. That means you get exclusive emojis, and we can read your comments a lot more easily. But the best part is you are instrumental in the fight for truth and freedom of speech. And if you want to take it even further, hit the join button and come on over to our Ike Nation Locals community. Basically, this is an online community for people just like you who want to chat, who want to sharpen one another, share different stories, all free of big tech, free speech, censorship. It's $5 a month, and by doing this, you are further supporting our mission to shine a light into the dark corners of our government, our culture, and our media. So to recap, whatever platform you're watching on, hit the thumbs up. If you're watching on X, hit the heart and retweet this post to get it out there. And then whatever other platform, hit the heart or the thumbs up or whatever the platform wants you to do. But on Rumble specifically, the best way that you can support our mission is to become a $5 a month paid subscriber right there in the live chat. If you're not seeing the subscribe button in the live chat, that means you need to watch the show on your browser. If you're watching in the mobile app, you don't see the subscribe button because then, well, Rumble would have to give part of your money to the App Store. Rumble doesn't want to do that. They want to give all of your contribution to the actual content creator, which we think is great. So, in order to do that, go out to your browser on your phone, your Safari browser, Chrome browser, whatever it is that you search the internet with, and type in rumble.com/The Ike Wingate Show. Then open the live chat. You'll see that subscribe button. Hit it there. $5 a month, recurring. You don't have to do it ever again, and you can go back to watching in the mobile app. Just one of the little things you can do to help us get to the masses as we endeavor to shine a light into the dark corners of our government, culture, and media. Thank you for being an instrumental part of this mission. All right, and we are back. Had to take a phone call there and didn't think it was going to last that long. So we go back to the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and we're specifically talking about this exit wound. And this is Charlie Kirk's executive producer, and he's giving some more detail about this exit wound conversation. Okay. Yeah, everything's fine. Everything's fine. That was just a call I had to take. And so it's all good. Back into it, though, he says, I want to address some of the discussion about the lack of an exit wound with Charlie. I'm usually not interested in delving into most of this kind of online chatter. I apologize, it's somewhat graphic. He says he spoke to the surgeon at the hospital who worked on Charlie, said the bullet absolutely should have gone through. There should have been an exit wound out the back, which is very normal for a high-powered, high-velocity round, a 30-06 round. He said, I've seen wounds from this caliber many times, and they always just go through everything. This would have taken a moose or two down, an elk, etc. Okay? But it didn't go through Charlie's body. His body stopped it. He mentions that there were dozens of staff and students and special guests standing directly behind Charlie on the other side of the tent. The doctor said it was an absolute miracle that someone else didn't get killed. This is what the doctor said. His bone was so healthy and the density was so impressive that he's like the man of steel. It should have just gone through and through. It likely would have killed those standing behind him too. In the end, the coroner did find the bullet just beneath the skin. Okay, he says even in death, Charlie managed to save the lives of those around him. Remarkable, miraculous. Okay, well, a lot of people aren't satisfied with that answer. Okay, they said that's impossible because there's been all these ballistic tests done, and it, without being too graphic, they say really, caliber of bullet that, like that should have severed, could have decapitated the man. And so you go, wait a minute, then what is going on? Are we being lied to? What's the truth? I mean, you have a guy like Chris Martinson who's been, examining, by the way, a lot of these same people went through all the Trump stuff and, they disagree with each other and each of them is sure they're right. But he said that this statement is next level BS. He says the standard 30-06 round will go right through a pine tree with ease. He says the story isn't true. Just flat out says the story is basically says the guy's lying. He said the foot-pounds of force would have pushed Charlie's head backwards violently if it had absorbed or stopped the bullet completely. I was asked to suspend simple laws of physics on 9/11. I'm not doing it this time either. So you go, okay, well, is there a conspiracy here? Are we being lied to? What do you guys think? Is there an explanation? Again, you have somebody else, this guy Health Ranger on X saying, I'm not trying to be graphic, pains me to have to say this, but the narrative is delusional. He said if his neck stopped that round, his neck would have literally exploded. Because the energy, 3,000 foot-pounds, has to go somewhere. If the round exits the body, it takes remaining energy with it. But if it doesn't exit the body, then 100% of the energy is delivered to the tissues being impacted. He says if you deliver that kind of energy to literally any human neck in a fraction of a second, it's going to be like a grenade went off. Now, this is the kind of statement I want you to pay attention to, and that is we can now conclusively say he was not shot with a 30-06 round. Somebody's lying, and yes, it's a cover-up. Now, this is the kind of statement I would caution people on. Conclusively, you can say this is a cover-up. somebody's lying conclusively. That's not what he was shot with. See, these are statements you have to, steer clear of, honestly. No one can say that. No one can say that without having all the facts. And I'm pointing this out because while Andrew Colvett didn't go on X and say all this stuff, sort of cleaned it up, according to those same sources, to Alex Jones, there is an explanation, allegedly. You can't say things like conclusively when you don't have all the information, and you surely aren't thinking clearly through every possible scenario. Take a look.
I got a call last night from Jack Posobiec, and he says, yeah, we see your from an hour ago where you're quoting the TPUSA spokesperson, who, by the way, is a big fan of yours. You've met him, you've hung out with him, had dinner with him, Andrew Colvett, where he's quoting the surgeon that attended to Charlie when he was brought in, and he didn't want to give the details out, so I understand how it looks a little weird that the bullet didn't go through. You need to call him. So I call him, and he goes, listen, I don't want to give the details out. I said, well, I can't help it if I'm explaining. He goes, okay, fine, but it's really gruesome. And he said that, again, he's being shot from down an angle. It hits the spine and then bounces down, which is what it's going down, and then it deflects with its velocity, goes back into the spine, blows out 6 vertebrae. The bullet then shatters. That's what they do. I've shot wild hogs straight on. This has happened, and deer, and then exploded into the heart, and fragments shot up. So he oversimplified when he said, oh, then they found the bullet up in the shoulder by the neck. No, it was fragments. And I'm sitting there listening to this in the car, and I'm like, yeah, usually I shoot a deer or hog, in the shoulder. If you got a clear shot, but in the woods, you only get a front shot. I got to do it. You hit him in the front. I mean, it'll go in, back out the side, out the front. I mean, it does wild stuff. So I'm not, saying this is absolutely the perfect answer to all of this, but I talked to FBI ballistics experts. They said yes, and I've seen it myself. So that made a lot more sense. So it didn't go through because, oh, yeah, think about it. It's coming down at a major angle, then hits the bone and ricochets down. And I've seen that happen many times where you go into the front of a mammal, and that's what he was, a great man, and then it bounces around. And when I first saw the report, because he was explaining what the surgeon said without giving me all the details, I said, that makes no sense. But I've actually shot hogs. In one case, gosh, I've shot a lot of them. They're feral, and they want you to get rid of them. Then they eat the baby deer and just destroy everything. I probably shot 90 or more. I was trying to think about it. Wild hogs. I've shot little ones, big ones. Biggest I ever shot was like 400 pounds. Shot it at about 300 yards or so, straight on, because it came out of the woods, was turned. I was afraid about to go back in. I wanted a side shot, but I shot it, trying to shoot it right in the face. Said it went right under the neck. And that was a 300 Win Mag, very similar to a 30-06, a little more powerful, but basically the same. And it went in, so we butchered it later, about 2 feet. So into the lower intestine, well, it hit some ribs, broke into pieces, but a bunch of it bounced back up into the shoulder. So people are like, what do you mean magic bullet? Well, magic bullet is because they shot Kenny with more than one bullet. They're saying magic bullet here because people are saying it went in the throat and didn't go out the back. Of course, a 30-06 would do that. But if it's coming down like this and then it glances on a bone, then it ricochets down. That's exactly what to do. That's why you can also, because hogs have thicker skulls, they don't really have with deer, you can shoot a hog in the head. That's why you want to shoot the shoulder instead. And if it hits at a little bit of an angle, the skull will deflect it up, and you'll see a bunch of skin blow off the hog's head. But it lives because you didn't get it straight on. So I'm not endorsing that. I'm not saying we shouldn't investigate it, any of that. I'm saying a lot of ballistic experts are explaining that. And when I got the full download of what the surgeon said, and his spokesman was saying, a good friend of his, saying, please don't give all the details, but he gave them to me, and it was. I said, how? I said, I'm not going to be able to do this. I said, I didn't record this. I didn't write it all down. I was driving, but I said, there's no way.
All right, so you get the idea, right? that Charlie Kirk jolts from the impact of the bullet. And then shortly after that, again, we're looking at zoomed in cell phone video. We get the high-res video from those cameras that were stationed around him at some point. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's part of the investigation and therefore, they're not going to release it. You get those and then you can start nitpicking some of the fragmented things you're seeing on the screen because of the compression and the things that are done on cell phone video, especially zoomed in. You can't really trust every single thing you're seeing. If it's, zoomed out and you're close, that's something different. So if there are things on the high-res video that say it's something different, then that's a different conversation. But right now, you cannot trust these zoomed-in cell phone videos with these different fragments on the screen as saying, oh, that was a bullet. A cell phone is not going to catch that. I mean, that's freaking ridiculous. But you see, there's a scenario in which you have a doctor saying what happened. You have ballistics experts saying, yeah, that's very well possible. It's not typical, but it's certainly possible, and we've seen things like that. I mean, even in the hogs, like he was talking about. So you shoot from the down angle, and, unfortunately, it's just a terrible thing to have to explain because that means it basically ripped through the entire inside of his body. It literally shattered his heart, went up into the heart. I mean, it just like that. So the solace you could take is he was killed instantly. Killed instantly because, that happened just like that. All those things and all the movements, it happened like that, split second. Which explains why, unfortunately, this is graphic. And, when he was shot, his arms froze. And as one of the guys that was with him said, his eyes were open, but he was not home. And so all of these people saying, we have conclusive proof, definitive proof. There's no way this is a lie. It's a conspiracy. Like, they didn't consider the fact that the angle of the shot was a down-angled shot. See what I mean? You can't trust all these people. They may mean well, but I'm telling you, there's danger in trying to jump to a conclusion before you know everything. It's not really helpful. I understand asking questions. And it's one thing if people say, I don't understand this. This doesn't make sense. How could it be like this? That's one thing. I respect that. Have at it. It's the people that say, we know conclusively this was a cover-up and this was not a 30-06 round. You don't know any of that crap. And I just find it irresponsible. But they all want to be first. They all want to be the one that breaks the story. And they all want to get the clicks. Remember that. Let me know what you guys think about that. If you disagree, that's fine. You can be wrong. Go ahead and let me know what you think in the chat. All right. So, of course, even in the tragedy, even in the beautiful ceremony, the memorial ceremony, you still have the left, nasty as ever, saying things like this person, Rebecca Jones, the podcaster. This is what she called him. The podcaster who was killed in Utah was a effing creep, goofy, looking grown man who flunked out of college and could never let it go. He grifted off completely fabricated stories about oppression against conservatives. His entire persona was a gimmick steeped in theocratic and white supremacy. He was a bigoted, racist, homophobic, sexist piece of blank. He participated in an insurrection against our country, repeatedly called for the deaths of the perceived political enemies. He cheered on those who violently assaulted Americans. He should have been in jail. Really? Even if any of those things that you said were true, which none of them are, you don't go to jail for saying it. Okay? This shows you how stupid these people are. Instead, he got shot, she says, and by every measure, his only accomplishment is being the first American assassination that the world watched on TikTok in 4K. at 120 hertz. He wasn't a Rhodes Scholar shot in the face while seeing a movie in Colorado. He wasn't an elected official in Minnesota murdered for defending women's rights. He wasn't a first grader left bleeding to death in the company of a crazed gunman, and on and on and on and on. I mean, just on and on and on. This is the evil out there, maligning a man who was telling the truth. You don't have to like it, but he was telling the truth and doing it respectfully. What's interesting is you got the left trying to backpedal now, though, at least the leadership like Tim Walz, who says, we got to bring the temperature down, when he was just celebrating, acting like he, had hoped President Trump was dead 2 weeks ago.
But we're talking about this political violence thing. We have got to get back to the decency. You get up in the morning and you doom scroll through things. And although I will say this, the last few days you woke up thinking there might be news. Just saying. There will be news sometime, just so you know, there will be.
All right. So he was making jokes about hoping he would find out that President Trump was dead when President Trump didn't have events for 2 days. And, and they, publicly, he was doing plenty of other things. And, they tried to start this rumor that he was dead. Well, that's what Tim Walz was hoping for. And wants to talk about decency and bringing down the temperature when, dude, you're part of the problem. Part of the problem. And then you have, of course, the liberal media running their game too. Rolling Stone, Donald Trump and his administration used Charlie Kirk's murder as an excuse to ramp up their ongoing campaign for total power in their most authoritarian week yet. See what I mean? And this is what a lot of these low information people are reading. Stupid things like this. Donald Trump using his murder. This was his friend. And so there are so many lies surrounding this whole thing. They're being exposed. But, one of the lies they like to say is that Charlie Kirk was celebrating the guy who took a hammer to Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, which, by the way, was not MAGA. Charlie Kirk made a joke on the air that some good conservative ought to go bail him out so we can ask him some questions to find out what his ideology really is, because he's not MAGA. That's what he said. And then the left said he was celebrating this assault on Paul Pelosi. He never said that. He was refuting the media narrative. Here's what's crazy, though. This is what I didn't know about this guy. David DePape. Did you know he was an illegal alien? Did you know that? He was an illegal alien from Canada. Okay. This is a guy that the left said was MAGA. You remember this attack? DePape, who is living...
Yeah, definitely don't want all of here.
Yeah, so what's funny is, not funny, but I think this was the very first podcast I did when we launched this show. It was audio only, but it was about this attack. But this guy, David DePape, who was living and voting illegally in San Francisco, supported socialist candidates such as Peter Miguel Camejo. His life partner was Oksane Gypsy Taub, an LGBTQ Russian immigrant, and their home displayed LGBTQ and BLM signs and flags. Yeah, really sounds like a MAGA guy, right? DePape was mentally ill, believing he was Jesus Christ for over a year before adopting and spreading anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. Despite his hatred for Nancy Pelosi, his background and associations show he was a product of the political left. Charlie Kirk knew it. He stated that. And of course, they are taking him completely out of context. But I did not know this dude was an illegal alien and a member of the LGBTQ crew. Okay. something else when it comes to the left and this LGBTQ link to violence. The man who attempted to kill Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh identifies as a transgender woman and was deeply mentally ill and suicidal, according to documents first obtained by Real Daily Wire. Okay? This guy who tried to kill Brett Kavanaugh was trans and obviously messed up. And did you know, my brother sent this to me the other day. I may have told you guys about it, maybe not. But did you know the Unabomber had gender confusion as well? Ted Kaczynski, crazy man. Yeah. It's a trend, friends. It's a trend. And it isn't like, oh, how could this be happening? Maybe to Kaczynski it just happened. But by now, if people have this ideology, it's a product of the culture. It's, social contagion, as they call it. How about clearing up another left-wing violent assassin? There were shootings that have happened over the past week and a half. This one at the New Hampshire Country Club, the guy went in there shooting, yelling, "Free Palestine." Right? Yeah, but yet the left is saying, "Oh, this guy, was MAGA," talking about some kind of race war. But witnesses there at the scene said he shouted, "Free Palestine." Again, they continue to try to pin this stuff on people on the right. And I'm not saying there's no violence on the right, but it is so stark in comparison. It's not even close. Not even close. You talk about the guy in Minnesota. Oh, he was a MAGA guy. Well, he had all these "No More Kings," flyers in his car. Was that a thing he was going to target, or was he going to and participating in them? He was appointed by Tim Walz to a board for the government, and Tim Walz and him were friends, or at least he said he was friends. And Tim Walz had a bunch of posts about him on his X feed that just went away. So how can you say that guy was purely MAGA? I don't know. And what's interesting is he killed a state representative that had just went against the Democrats on some Medicaid stuff, which made the Democrats very mad about her, very mad at her, and then she's killed. So even the one that they point to as this guy was MAGA still has a ton of questions about how that lines up with MAGA. This is what they want you to believe. They want to muddy the waters. It's not true. Again, that doesn't mean everybody on the right is perfect and innocent of everything. But it's not even close when it comes to looking at which side celebrates, calls for, and perpetuates violence, political violence. There's no question. Let's talk about Jimmy Kimmel a little bit. The backstory on how this guy got taken off air. If you ask liberals, oh, Donald Trump is silencing free speech, this is a dangerous precedent, which, by the way, the left has never cared about free speech, but now they do. They have been heavily in favor of cancel culture for anything they don't like. And what happens to someone they like, oh, it's a violation of free speech. Now, the story behind the scenes is that the CEO, Bob Iger, and the co-chair, Dana Walden, they made the decision to suspend Jimmy Kimmel's show after he planned to double down and go on camera to defend his lie that MAGA voters killed Charlie Kirk rather than kowtow to the outrage. This is according to the Hollywood Reporter. They yanked him because they thought that him going on air that night would only fan the flames as Nexstar and Sinclair affiliates dropped him. The advertiser calls began to roll in, and then big affiliate conglomerates, Nexstar and Sinclair, threatened to preempt the show. This is market reaction, not tied to FCC Chair Brendan Carr's actions or statements. And Jimmy Kimmel wasn't planning to apologize. He was planning to make it worse, and so they had to make a business decision. And some of the behind the scenes here, this is, from the Hollywood Reporter, how it all went down behind the scenes. And within hours, the stations were calling. Inside of ABC, multiple conversations with Kimmel were had at the executive level, and the talks had not yet reached Bob Iger and TV head Dana Walden. The execs wanted to know, how was Kimmel going to address the situation on Wednesday night's show, and the answer was not satisfactory to management. And then you had these affiliates come through and say, we're not going to air it. And that's how it happened. It wasn't because of Trump. That's what they want you to believe. The interesting thing is Jimmy Kimmel's show will return tonight, but it's going to be missing some people. As Colin Rugg points out on X, Here was the statement. Last Wednesday, we made the decision to suspend production on the show to avoid further inflaming a tense situation at an emotional moment for our country. It's a decision we made because we felt some of the comments were ill-timed and thus insensitive. We've spent the last days having thoughtful conversations with Jimmy, and after those conversations, we reached the decision to return the show on Tuesday. But wait. Nexstar has joined Sinclair in pulling Jimmy Kimmel off air. That's old news. Here we go. Sinclair will not lift suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live on our stations until formal discussions are held with ABC regarding the network's commitment to professionalism and accountability. Sinclair also calls upon Mr. Kimmel to issue a direct apology to the Kirk family. Furthermore, we ask Mr. Kimmel to make a meaningful personal donation to the Kirk family and Turning Point USA. Regardless of ABC's plans for the future of the program, Sinclair intends not to return Jimmy Kimmel Live to our air until we are confident that appropriate steps have been taken to uphold the standards expected of a national broadcast platform. So there you go. You got to make the donations, you got to apologize, and then you can be back on air. So that doesn't look like a suppression of free speech, if you ask me. But all right, let's talk about vaccines. President Trump addressing vaccines. We want no mercury in the vaccine. We want no aluminum. The MMR, the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccines should be taken separately. When you mix them, there could be a problem. Okay, that's what President Trump said yesterday.
You know, it's artificially induced. It's not like something that when you go from all of those, healthy babies to a point where I don't even know structurally if a country can afford it. And that's the least of the problems. To have families destroyed over this is just so terrible. I also, and we've already done this, we want no mercury in the vaccine. We want no aluminum in the vaccine. The MMR, I think, should be taken separately. This is based on what I feel, the mumps, measles, and all the three should be taken separately. And it seems to be that when you mix them, there could be a problem. So there's no downside in taking them separately. In fact, they think it's better, so let it be separate. The chicken pox is already separate because when that got mixed in, I guess they made it for a while, it really was bad. So they make chicken pox. Individually, they're okay. When you mix them, something maybe happens. So there's no downside in doing it. It's not like, oh, if you do it, bad things. No, it's only good side. And it may not have that much of an impact, but it may have a big impact. So let those be taken separately. And then hepatitis B is sexually transmitted. There's no reason to give a baby that's almost just born hepatitis B. So I would say wait till the baby is 12 years old and formed and take hepatitis B. And I think if you do those things, it's going to be a whole different, it's going to be a revolution in a positive sense in the country.
All right. So never had a president say these things, calling it out. And of course, Bobby Kennedy talking as well. The crazy thing is, part of that was the Tylenol link to autism when women are pregnant. And of course, because Donald Trump said there was a link, here's how the left responded. Yep, with the caption, me popping Tylenol while pregnant because WTF is the government going to do about it? Okay, yeah, Trump said it, so I'm going to, risk autism for my child. I mean, this is how deranged these people are. And, they may want to blame Trump, but there are studies backed by Harvard, Johns Hopkins research, and more. Many want to roll their eyes, but Harvard, Johns Hopkins, Columbia, Mount Sinai all say the same thing. They've got the peer-reviewed studies to prove it. Acetaminophen or Tylenol exposure increases risk for both autism and ADHD. Johns Hopkins discovered babies with the most acetaminophen in their cord blood were nearly 3 times more likely to be diagnosed with autism. And Mount Sinai called the connection to neurodevelopmental disorders strong enough to warrant warnings for expectant mothers. Now the FDA agrees, saying the data is too strong to ignore and will move forward with label changes and doctor alerts. Of course, you have these doctors going on TV. Oh, there's nothing wrong with it. Then tell that to these 3 different studies that found the same thing. How does that make sense? 3 different studies. Oh, because Trump said it. It's just got to be wrong. President Trump spoke at the UN today. Weird things were happening to him at the UN. Watch the escalator when he gets on it. Escalator's working fine, just fine. No problem. As soon as he gets on the escalator, it just stops.
President Trump, Schumer.
Okay, so he says, we're going to walk up the escalator ourselves. Right? That's kind of weird. Who did that? I don't know, but the other weird thing happened when he started to speak and the teleprompter quit working.
Appreciate it. And I don't mind making this speech without a teleprompter because the teleprompter is not working. I feel very happy to be up here with you nevertheless. And that way you speak more from the heart. I can only say that whoever's operating this teleprompter is in big trouble.
Not a good day for the teleprompter guy. Not a good day. Somebody bring him to me. Later on, President Trump said, what has the UN ever done for me? I ended 7 wars in 7 months, and all I have ever gotten from them is a broken escalator and a broken teleprompter. Right? He's had enough of it.
President Trump.
He's had enough of it. All right. This UN meeting could have been bad. Could have been bad. Apparently, there were plans to take down and interfere with cell phone signals around this UN meeting. The Secret Service dismantled a network of more than 300 SIM servers and 100,000 SIM cards in the New York area that were capable of crippling telecom systems and carrying out anonymous telephonic attacks, disrupting the threat before world leaders arrived for the UN General Assembly. So they just thwarted what could have been a real chaotic situation, depending on what else they had planned. Interestingly enough, Macron of France has officially recognized Palestine as a state, which, of course, is essentially rewarded Hamas. They got what they want. I mean, they haven't released the hostages, which is, I think, ridiculous. But apparently there was a barricade for President Trump's envoy in New York, which blocked out other people. Well, Macron was not too happy about that, couldn't get through with his motorcade, decided to call Trump to see if he could let him in.
I'm sorry, I'm the president. I'm really sorry. Just that everything's in frozen right now. There's a motorcade coming right now. I'm sorry. If you don't see it, let me cross.
So Macron decides to call the president. Hello, Donald, can you let me through?
I'm waiting.
Why don't you just walk? You can walk. Emmanuel, you're a strong guy. You can do it. And there he goes. He has to walk. And that's how it went. People say, oh, this is so embarrassing. President Trump would do this to a fellow world leader. Well, Macron just recognized Palestine as a state. So maybe he's teaching him a lesson. Hello, Donald. This barricade is blocking me. I cannot go through. Oui. Pepe Le Pew. Emmanuel, I think you're going to have to walk. I don't think you can come through. We don't want your French cars coming through. You're just going to have to walk. You're a strong guy. I think you can do it. You're plenty strong. You got legs. You can walk. You can do it. It doesn't matter. I'm sure it's fine for your wife if she's there. People are saying a lot of things about your wife, Emmanuel. I've defended her. She's a nice lady, but I might be forced to tell the truth if you don't. Back off. Right? No? Okay. So that happened. Okay, so that happened at the UN. We also had a big news happen today where Google admitted that the Biden administration had them censor things. Yes. The Biden White House demanded censorship of legal content, and the European censorship law could require it and other tech companies to remove lawful content both within and outside the EU. So, Jim Jordan tweeting out that Google commits to offer all creators previously kicked off of YouTube due to political speech violations to return to the platform, as Clay Travis pointed out. What about all the millions of dollars lost because of demonetization? I mean, you might have Ben Shapiro and Steven Crowder working together today if YouTube didn't do this. I mean, remember demonetization was like the big sticking point in their negotiation when that all got brought out. But anyway, so Google admits the White House demanded they censor content. And as a deal, they're willing to reinstate those accounts that were demonetized. That's mighty fine of them, isn't it? Mighty fine. David Sling says they were trying to shake Trump. You don't shake Trump. And don't forget about the nearly zero autism rates in the Amish population. There's something to be said there. Something to be said there for sure. All right, Kamala Harris has this new book coming out. This is our final piece of news. So if you've got comments, bring them into the chat right now. Make sure you heart the post and repost. Give us a thumbs up and repost over on Rumble. And if you want to support our work to bring you this content, you can do so via Cash App or Venmo with a contribution to help us cover our costs using Cash App or Venmo at IkeReport.com or in the chat on Rumble if you'd like to contribute to help us cover our costs. This book that Kamala has coming out is pretty ridiculous, isn't it? But she was asked by Rachel Maddow, someone who is a lover of women, which makes her gay, or I'm sorry, lesbian, and asking Kamala why, as she put in the book, she didn't pick Pete Buttigieg because he was gay.
I guess I'd ask you to just elaborate on that a little bit. It's hard to hear. Yeah. With you running as, you're the first woman elected vice president. You're a Black woman and a South Asian woman elected to that high office, very nearly elected president. To say that he couldn't be on the ticket effectively because he was gay, it's hard to hear.
No. That's not what I said. That's that he couldn't be on the ticket because he is gay.
Really? Okay, that's not what you said. All right, well then please clear it up for us, Kamala.
My point, as I write in the book, is that I was clear that in 107 days, in one of the most hotly contested elections for president of the United States, against someone like Donald Trump, who knows no floor, to be a Black woman running for president of the United States and as a vice presidential running mate, a gay man, with the stakes being so high, it made me very sad, but I also realized it would be a real risk.
Okay, so you didn't pick him because he was gay, because it was too risky, because he's gay. I mean, she said a lot of words there, but that's basically the point she got down to, is too risky. He's too gay and it's too risky, basically.
No matter
Deer in the headlights.
how, I've been an advocate and an ally of the LGBT community my entire life. So it wasn't about any prejudice on my part, but
It wasn't about any prejudice, but I didn't pick him because he was gay.
we had such a short period of time.
Okay, no, because it had nothing to do with it was, that he was gay. It was just we didn't have enough time. We didn't have enough time to be gay. Now, with more time, it would have allowed for gayness, but because we didn't have enough time, gay wasn't allowed. I mean, how does that make any sense? I'm a big defender of LGBTQ plus ... www. There's no prejudice on my part. Well, what did you do? You didn't pick him? No, I didn't pick him. I mean, because he was gay and it was too risky. That sounds like prejudice to me.
And the stakes were so high.
Oh, yeah.
I
yeah,
think
of course.
Pete is a phenomenal public servant.
The stakes were just too high to be gay, right? I mean, but he's a great guy, but he's gay. Would you have picked him if he wasn't gay? Yeah, probably. I mean, that's what she should have asked.
And I think America is and would be ready for that. But when I had to make that decision with 2 weeks to go, and maybe I was being too cautious. I'll let our friends, we should all talk about that. Maybe I was.
With 2 weeks, it was just too close to the election to be gay.
But that's the decision I made, and I, as with everything else in the book, I'm being very candid about that.
Yeah.
With a great deal of sadness about also the fact that it might have been a risk.
I'm so sad. I'm so sad that you're prejudiced against Pete Buttigieg because he was gay. I mean, she should be getting ripped every which way on media right now if they had any ounce of consistency or principle. And Rachel Maddow just lets her off the hook. She didn't look satisfied with the answer. So you won't pick him to go on and run with you on the ticket because he's gay, but you'll come on my show, a host who's gay. So too gay for vice president, but not too gay to be on MSNBC, I guess. Okay, I'm just trying to figure out where your gaydar is on this, your level of, acceptable gayness. This is just so hilarious from the side that touts tolerance and acceptance, and we must help the oppressed, and we must be diverse. Not too diverse. You picked the whitest, lamest dude in Tim Walz you could possibly do. You picked a guy who, he may not be gay, but he sure doesn't seem like he's acting as his normal self. Genuinely. He doesn't seem like a genuine guy. I mean, he was running around with jazz hands and whatnot. Didn't seem like he was being his true self with some of the stuff he was saying. I don't know. But he sure didn't appeal to men. That's the crazy thing is, gay Pete would have been way more appealing to men than Tim Walz. Straight men, I would say, because at least you're like, okay, I mean, Pete doesn't walk around with jazz hands. Even Pete. That's too gay of a thing for even Pete to do. The thing about Pete is he's actually really well spoken. Pete Buttigieg is one of the only ones that has owned and taken responsibility for the mistakes of the left. That's how you get back to a place of believability and trust and authenticity. Now, I would never vote for Mayor Pete. Yeah, I don't think he's anywhere near qualified. He couldn't freaking run the transportation department. But the audacity, the hypocrisy of someone like Kamala Harris to not pick him because he's gay is laughable. From the side that acts like they are holier than thou and they are accepting of anything and everything, but Pete was just too gay to risk it. Imagine that. If there was any accountability, any justice, any consistency, any truth, the liberal media would be roasting Kamala Harris for this. You say you're tolerant, but you wouldn't take a risk on a gay man? You are no diverse queen. Isn't it crazy how more and more often the left's hypocrisy, their lies, their evil is exposed? It's out in the light. It's evident. It's there. There are people that aren't looking, but maybe there's some people out there that are, maybe for the first time ever, saying, this doesn't make sense. I am a person without a home when it comes to my beliefs. Come on into the Conservative Party. Come on into the Republican Party. We're not going to do this trans stuff, but if you want freedom, if you want prosperity, if you want security, if you want transparency, and those are values you value more than trans ideology and men and women's sports and things like that, more than handouts and personal responsibility, if you value those other things over these, then you ought to check out coming to the other side, because that side has left you. If those are your values and they're highly held, the other side has left you. There's no question. So what are you waiting for? I think there are people out there that are looking around. They are looking around. Now, one of the other things I can tell you about the reason why Kamala Harris did or didn't pick people. I mean, she allegedly didn't pick Josh Shapiro because he's Jewish and too pro-Israel, a Zionist. Discrimination left and right. Again, these are the people that tell you that your identity is based on your outward appearance. So it's no wonder that's what they judge these people by. That's what they define these people by. Their outward appearance, their ethnicity, their lifestyle. That's who they are. Nothing about what the content of their character is about. They don't even look at it. Josh Shapiro actually could have given her a decent chance of winning. She didn't do it. No, can't be seen as being pro-Israel. I've got to appease all the, pro-Hamas fanatics out there. And it bit her in the butt. But allegedly, Josh Shapiro went in and met with her one-on-one and said, I want work to do. I want, responsibility. I'm not a yes man. I want to be effective. Kamala Harris didn't like that. Apparently, Tim Walz walked in and said, whatever you need me to do, ma'am. Like some kind of not all there golden retriever. I know that's an insult to golden retrievers. I get it. But basically, he's like, what do you want me to do? I'll do whatever you want to do. I'm a yes man. And that's why she picked him. Well, that's her ego. Don't let him tell you otherwise. But Kamala Harris discriminating against Pete Buttigieg. The irony, my friends, the irony is thick. We'll be back with you Thursday morning, Lord willing, 9 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Follow me on X at Ike Wingate. Name's on the bottom of the screen, Ike Wingate. Follow me there on X. Please, I need more followers on X. I would love to get over the 4,000 mark. That's the next threshold I'm trying to get past, so we'd appreciate that. Follow me on all the other platforms as well, if you are so inclined. And as we said about Charlie Kirk, Certainly, there is a shift that has happened in our country. We saw the revival on full display, the gospel proclaimed to maybe more people at one time than has ever happened in the history of civilization. I can't imagine another situation, and that is the good that has come out of this tragedy. How many people, countless people, God knows how many, are now reconciled to God through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ because of Charlie Kirk's sacrifice. It's incredible. The world is seeing on full display that Christians, true Christians, behave differently, where the world expects violence and tragedy and vitriol and hatred and retaliation. The Christian faith on full display showed no. We trust God. He is sovereign. We'll let the government deal out the punishment. Justice is appointed to them to carry out in this instance here on earth, but to Christ in the afterlife. And we trust that, and we will not let their evil destroy us because we have a hope in us that is supernatural, that is eternal, and that was on full display. It is amazing in these times to see what men and evil meant for good, what men and evil meant. Wow. What men and Satan meant for evil, God is using for good. Does that make any sense? Hopefully that does. It is amazing to see it on display so vividly. It's always been there, but so starkly and vividly, it is on display. And it is an amazing thing to see. I'm glad I was alive to see all this happen, even though it was a terrible thing to witness in some senses, but to see how God, in his sovereignty, his providence, can use something so terrible to produce so much fruit. No one else can do that. No other religion, no other belief. There is no other power. There is no name above all names, the name of Jesus Christ, which everyone will bow and confess that Jesus is Lord at some point in the future. No one could ever affect what we just saw in the last 2 weeks, but an almighty, all-powerful, omniscient, omnipresent, infallible God. Couldn't be manufactured, couldn't be rehearsed. The TPUSA crew couldn't have coordinated that. It was beyond human power. And that, my friends, if you are questioning, if you are unsure, if you are wondering, look back at what has occurred and tell me it wasn't God, because I will show you instance after instance after instance that is miraculous and inexplainable, but for the power of God. Do not delay. Today is the day of salvation. Repent, confess, surrender to God through Christ's sacrifice on the cross, because you never know when it's going to be too late. You never know when our time is up. Do not delay. If there's been any more evidence in our lifetime, I don't know what it is, to the outside secular world, to somebody who's questioning, wondering. Those of us that believe, we see God in many things. We see his spirit moving. We see the effects. We see those things. But to the outside world, they're blinded. Satan wants to distract and to confuse. But there's no confusing how pointed, how evident, how on display the power of God has been. No more excuses. Don't delay. Today is the day. Hope you have a wonderful night. It is not time to back down. It's time to double down, because freedom is always worth it. Have a great night.
Rate, subscribe, and leave a review. It's how we get the word out amidst the chaos. Thanks for listening to The Ike Wingate Show.